Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Thirsty Thursday edition of The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I am your host, Craig DeLuz, taking you on your travels today, but needless to say, I cannot do this by myself.
Hey, welcome to the Rundown, the Thirsty Thursday edition of the Rundown. It's one day post hump day here on the Rundown, and my name is Mike Borski.
That's right. We are on the downhill. We're on the downhill now for the week. So
That's it. I mean, it's the unofficial second day of my weekend. Mentally, anyway. Mentally.
Yes. Weekend actually started last night.
Yep.
But I'm still working during the weekend. So see, I can honestly say I work on the weekends, although I do work on the weekends. But
Yep.
that's
exactly right. Same here. Yeah. Work still physically at work, just mentally having the weekend start.
Exactamundo.
Yep.
Dude, hey, there is a lot in the news, and we have actually a number of video tidbits that you guys are going to enjoy today. So I want to jump right into the news. One of them is actually very, very near and dear to me, and it has to do with the city of Sacramento. Now, the city of Sacramento is, the capital of California, which happens to be the city where I live. We are behind, and for those of you who do not know, or haven't been paying attention or had your head buried in the sand, we are like on the wrong side of the Iron Curtain, which otherwise known as the Sierras. We are in the belly of the beast here. And one of the things that's been a really big topic here has been police use of force. And it's been all over in many major cities or in many blue states. But police use of force is a very, very big thing. And we had the city of San Francisco institute a police use of force policy that basically said that you have to do a bunch of different things. Once you get there, the first thing you have to do is de-escalate. Then you have to negotiate. Then you have to attempt non-lethal force, like a taser or a billy club. And then, and only then, once you've exhausted all of those, can you then resort to potentially lethal force. Now, at least in San Francisco's policy, they have if reasonable, meaning you show up to an active shooter situation, someone's walking down the street, they're just shooting people. You're not going to go through all those steps before you take that person down. Well, in the city of Sacramento, our new police use of force policy has no such disclaimer, meaning you have to go through all of those steps before you can use lethal force. Otherwise, you could potentially be fired, be sued, or even worse, be sent to jail.
First off, Craig, I want to make a question to you. You said that the capital of California was Sacramento?
Yes.
I thought it was tyranny. I don't know why. I just had that in my head that the capital of California was tyranny. Craig, there's two methods, and this is absolutely ridiculous coming out of Sacramento here. There's two methods which law enforcement gets to the deadly force, the point of having to use deadly force. The first is through a period of escalation. You start there, you're with somebody, you're using your verbal commands, they're using verbal commands, and they switch to hands. Now you have to go hands-on with them. They pick up a bat. Well, now you grab your baton or you grab your taser. Well, now they pick up an axe. Well, and then you get to go to your firearm. You get to escalate. You always get to stay one above where they are. In that policy, in that continuum, that use of force continuum. The other method is like you said, active shooter. They show up with a gun. What they're proposing and what they're now requiring there in Sacramento is if you show up on an active shooter situation, there's a guy with a gun popping holes in people, you have to go, sir, please, let's have a conversation about this. Oh, wait, let me take out my OC spray, or wait, let me grab my baton. Oh, wait, let me get my taser now. Okay, hold on, that's not working. Now I can go to my firearm.
Bang, you're dead.
yeah. There is, like you said, they took out the reference to when feasible or as right. Possible, when necessary, those kind of words. So it is now cut and dry. You show up, somebody points a gun at you, you must first, hey, sir, can we have a conversation about your firearm? Wait, hold on, have I shown you my asp baton? And go through all the steps.
So then the question is, why would any reasonable individual who is in law enforcement show up to a situation like that when their life is being put at risk? Because if they have to go through all those steps, and we know that chances are they're not going to go through all those steps, But what they also are what's also going to wind up happening is that they then are going to put both their job and their livelihood and their freedom at risk, simply to protect the people. Now, some people are going to make the decision to do that. Some people are just going to be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to respond to that, which then puts the citizens at risk.
Right, and we know from previous case law that if the citizen is at risk, that's not law enforcement's fault. It's not their responsibility to protect you. What you're going to find, though, is less law enforcement is going to respond, if any at all, because now that the policy says this, Craig,
right,
they are now exposed under qualified immunity.
Right.
When qualified immunity says they have to obey their policy and procedure, they have to remain within the law. They cannot violate the law or the constitutional rights. So as soon as they go there and respond properly, in my opinion, to a deadly force situation is with deadly force. But if they did not follow their policy, they won't be covered under qualified immunity. So these officers can now respond to a scene, take action, and not be covered civilly. They could be sued for having saved other lives by using deadly force against this bad guy and lose everything they've ever had.
Yep. And the bad guy can then turn around and sue them.
Yep, exactly right. Yep,
This is beyond. Put it to you this way, and I know that our police chief here has probably had some of the best responses to dealing with with the whole Antifa thing and all of that, and he's pretty much just trying. He is doing the best he can to implement the city council policy, which is just horrid. But when your police chief, when the person you hired, the expert that you hired tells you this is just not going to work, at some point you would think that the politicians would actually listen to the guy who's actually got to implement this stuff. They would actually listen to them and say, yeah, okay, maybe we need to rethink this.
Well, remember, Craig, we see this all the time, and I think we're going to see this towards the end of the program today. Your opinion doesn't matter. Only mine does. And that's clearly what your city council has to offer him. He's doing a great job of fighting back against them and making it known publicly. And I think you'll probably see a lawsuit or two to probably get these policies halted. And in the meantime, it's there. How's he supposed to recruit? How's he supposed to retain? How's he supposed to get people to answer any calls right now?
Well, exactly. But here's the thing, Mike. We all know facts don't matter.
That's right.
They don't. And in some cases, as we've learned with the response to COVID, we know that the science doesn't matter. Well, one area where I believe all of the science has pretty much pointed, and all of the experts on both sides, by the way, agree that gun buyback programs flat out do not work. They do absolutely nothing to reduce crime. And there's a new study out that not only points out the fact that it doesn't reduce crime, but in some cases they've actually noticed right afterwards a small, not statistically insignificant, but a small 7% increase in crimes involving firearms after gun buyback programs.
Yeah, listen, we every time we talk to you about this, we tell you that these don't work. First off, it's not even buybacks, just a term that was made up. You can't buy back something you didn't own in the beginning. These are just turn-ins. These are good gun turn-ins is what they want you to do. They want you to turn in your gun, and then we'll give you some of your neighbor's tax money, instead of you getting to keep your firearm. These don't work. We know they don't work. These are not guns that are ever being used. These are throwaway guns to begin with. These are guns that were found in barns and garages. These are guns that don't work. Nobody ever comes in and turns in a real firearm. And if they do, it's because a relative died, and this was the easiest way for them to get it out of their house because they're just not gun people. They don't work. They never work. And in fact, they found in here, Craig, that after these gun buybacks happen, that gun crime actually increases.
Yeah, that was the funny point is, like I said, it was statistically insignificant.
Yep.
But 7%. The point, I'm going to clarify. Anything over 2 to 3% or under 2 to 3% is considered politically and statistically insignificant.
Yep. Right.
But this was a 7% increase. So it wasn't a huge increase.
Right.
But it still wasn't statistically insignificant.
Correct.
Meaning, what's probably happened is people are taking these and going out and they're buying new guns, or they're buying ammo.
Yep. Yep. Exactly right. Exactly right. Horrible. These things they're worthless. Doesn't matter if it's funded by the government. Doesn't matter if it's funded by, some giant private corporation. They don't work. They don't work. They're just feel good kind of things. That's all.
And that's how most policy on the left is done. It's not based on facts. It's not based on statistics. It's based on, how you feel.
I have to do something. I have to do something.
Right. how about this? How about go get a gun, get a concealed carry permit, and then be prepared to defend yourself when that stuff, or defend others when that stuff happens.
That's
How
it.
about that? How about that?
Gentlemen, prepare to defend yourselves.
There you go. There you go. All right. So moving right along. So now now you have places that once again that are doing gun buyback programs, but what about places that are doing gun giveaways? Well, the state of West Virginia actually, and this is kind of a cross-pollination story, in an effort to encourage people to get vaccinations, well, they're actually giving away firearms.
Of course, hunting and fishing is big business. It's a big hobby here in the state. And so officials are taking advantage of that. They're giving away lifetime memberships, lifetime licenses to the fishing and hunting clubs. They're also doing things like giving away a Ford F-150 trucks, as you mentioned, every week for 5 weeks starting at the end of June. And they're also doing something that's a little more controversial. They're giving away 5 shotguns and 5 hunting rifles as well, just for the fully vaccinated or even partially vaccinated. All they need to do is just get at least 1 shot. Now,
so they're giving away F-150s. They're giving away in raffles. They're giving away lifetime hunting licenses. And they're also giving away hunting rifles and shotguns in order to encourage people to become to get vaccinated. I have a feeling that some anti-vaccination folks are going to reconsider their position in West Virginia.
Well, listen, everybody likes free stuff, right? By the way, that's just a little hint. Just a little hint. But I actually see this program, Craig. I bet you within the next week or two that we see lawsuits to get this shut down or make it open to every resident of the state of Virginia, whether or not they're vaccinated, because you cannot discriminate against people for making a health choice. It's up to the individual to decide whether or not they're going to get the vaccine. They're going to get this experimental vaccine that's not approved by the FDA vaccine. Maybe they're extremely healthy. Maybe they're 22 years old, never had a sniffle in their life, and don't need to be exposed to this. You're telling me that you're going to discriminate against them? You, the government, the state of Virginia, are going to discriminate against your people for medical decisions? You're just opening yourself up for a world of hurt. That's all you're doing.
Well, I don't know. I will. Well, I think our positions on the vaccines are a little bit different, but I'll just say this. I think, first of all, it's an individual's choice as to whether or not they want to get it or not. I will say I don't listen to raffles. Don't listen to a raffle. Don't listen to a political talking head. The person to talk to about whether or not you should get a vaccine is the person you've been trusting with your medical advice, and that is your doctor. And I think we both can agree on your personal doctor.
Said that all along, yeah. Yeah, listen, I want to be clear, Craig. I'm not anti-vax. I'm not anti-vax at all. I'm saying if it's right for you, you get it. If it's not right for you, don't get it. And the government shouldn't be allowed to incentivize my decision, my healthcare decision.
Okay. So then, we're in 100% agreement. I don't believe that we should be incentivizing healthcare decisions. I think we should allow people to make decisions that are best for them.
Exactly.
Because here's the deal, man. If you're vaccinated, then you're protected. It doesn't really matter if I get a vaccination or not. If I'm vaccinated and you choose not to, well, then guess what? You're taking that risk for you.
Yep.
Right? Not for me, because I'm vaccinated. I'm protected. Yep. So I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to worry about whether or not you got a vaccine.
Yep.
But anyway, dude, this is just, and I also think that if you decide to not get vaccinated and you come down with COVID, well, then guess what? You bear the responsibility, and the responsibility for the decisions that you make. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and that's life. I mean, life is about taking risks. I sit on a school board, and when we were talking about whether or not we reopen, one of my fellow board members said, well, if even just one child or one family member were to get sick, that would be one too much. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if that's the case, then we should just shut down the schools forever, because if one child gets hit by a car walking to school, or gets in an accident with his parents driving to school, well, then that's just one too many. And the fact is, that's how we live life. We live life measuring risk reward.
When did this lifetime of ours become a zero risk goal? It's not feasible. It never has been.
No, it never has been. And in fact, that leads us to our next story. And this is a commencement speech that you're not going to hear much about. That's because he's not some pop star. He's not some, he's not some, trans, queer, LGBT celebrity or he's not a political talking head. This is simply the president of Purdue University, who, by the way, was not shut down this year, stayed open so that their students could graduate. But he's talking about, in this particular, I'm going to give you this small snippet, but he's talking about how decisions were made and the problem with the way in which we went about making decisions during COVID.
This last year, many of your elders failed this fundamental test of leadership. They let their understandable human fear of uncertainty overcome their duty to balance all the interests for which they were responsible. They hid behind the advice of experts in one field, but ignored the warnings of experts in other realms that they might do harm beyond the good they hoped to accomplish. Sometimes they let what might be termed the mad pursuit of zero, in this case, zero risk of anyone contracting the virus, to block out other competing concerns like the protection of mental health, the educational needs of small children, or the survival of small businesses. Pursuing one goal to the utter exclusion of all others is not to make a choice, but to run from it. It's not leadership, it's abdication.
So, Mike, he's basically pointing out, look, life is about taking in data, measuring risk, and then making a decision from there. And life has never been, and it's the exact words that you just uttered, it's never been about trying to create a zero-risk society. And that's exactly, though, what we did as a whole in terms of how we responded to COVID-19. And he recognizes just how much the damage, literally, that it's done to us as a society.
Remember, it was 14 months ago, Craig. We were going to flatten the curve. We're going to flatten the curve. We're going to take 2 weeks to do it. Well, guess what? Once that half of our political system got a hold of that control, got a taste of that control, then it became everything. It wasn't just flatten the curve, because guess what flatten the curve means? That doesn't mean zero risk. But if we keep this control, we can keep pushing those numbers down, and we can get to zero. We can get to herd immunity when they just I'm sorry, Craig, I still think it was all about control. Zero risk was just the talking points they were using trying to get there.
Well, and I think I think most people can agree, at least the initial, once again, that initial shutdown was only because we didn't know. And I think a lot of people agreed with it only because, look, we don't know what we don't know. But after a while, supposedly we were spending millions, if not billions of dollars doing contact tracing and all of that. So where we should know.
Yep.
Well, then how come we don't know? And then when you're giving us these recommendations, or you're saying, or in some cases orders that you're still going to require us to be shut down, you're not giving us the data, the information, the science that's supporting your decision. And if you're not going to give us that, especially, by the way, after we've caught you lying, after we've caught you misrepresenting the truth. My wife and I had an argument this morning about not an argument. We were talking about the difference between disinformation and misinformation. And I said the only difference is if it's disinformation, that means it was intentional. They intentionally, in some cases, lied to us. And Dr. Fauci admitted, Dr. Fakey, he admitted it.
Yep. We have seen that from the thousands of emails released in the last 24 hours from Dr. Fakey. Well, not that he released, that others released with his name in them, and you can clearly see that. I really think he's going to get the Hillary Clinton treatment here very soon. So, so make your peace with Dr. Fauci if you want to talk to him before he's gone.
Right. But dude, I mean, but that's the thing that gets me is that we're supposed to go to zero risk, and the fact is, life is not. As soon as you step out the door, you're taking a chance. Right. Everything you eat nowadays, if you read any study, anything you eat or drink puts you at risk, right? Doing nothing, sitting on your butt puts you at risk.
Yep.
Everything puts you at risk. But what do we do? With everything else, we take a look at the risk. We look at, okay, what are the chances that this is going to impact my life? And then we make our decisions and we live with it.
Yep, half the population's been fighting it since the end of that second week, Greg. The other half has been sitting around going, well, they must be telling us the truth, right? It can't be all about Bad Man Orange. It just, it must be something real. I'm surprised it took the country this long to get back on track. And listen, you're in a place, Greg, where you're not. my state's been back. We were down for 3-4 weeks, and our governor said, "Sorry, we're not doing this anymore."
Well, what I will tell you though is this, and that in many of the counties, the law enforcement has pretty much said, "Yeah, we're not enforcing any of this stuff."
Yeah.
We're just not. And so, in many cases, in many places, unless you're in some of the more blue controlled areas of the state of California, people pretty much went on about their business. And in some cases, in some of the red areas, some places did, some places didn't. But it still had an impact on many, many Californians economically and financially. And, the only people that really did well in California are people who were involved in the technology industry. I got to be honest, it helped me out because much of what I do is online, technology-based, web-based, and all of a sudden there was a bigger demand for my services. And tech companies and companies where you order online, like Amazon and all that, they did a boom. But people who didn't have that, a lot of businesses, a lot of people are working, guess what? They didn't have that same benefit. They did not benefit. And so it was the investment class, the people who invested in those sorts of companies were the ones who prospered. And so now California's looking at a surplus. They don't realize what's going to happen though is all of those companies now are moving their folks out of state because they don't want to pay the high taxes, high regulation, and all of that to pay for all the giveaways that the state of California is doing.
Yeah, you had a mass exodus. And even before that happened, Greg, you do not have enough taxpayers in your state to pay for the programs that your state administers. You're upside down. Your state's going to go bankrupt. People are going to suffer from it, and they continue to flee and leave your state. What was it? 53% now is your taxable rate there in California?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, what's funny, here's what's funny is that there was actually a proposal that was introduced that would have made it so that if you move out of the state of California, if you built your wealth in California, you would have still had to pay taxes in California.
Yeah. Rots of rock.
Rots of rock with that, right? Exactly. Hey, let's move right along. And, talk about like misconceptions or talk about people just not telling the truth. Let's talk about Black Lives Matter. Now, from the very, very beginning, most of us who followed who Black Lives Matter was knew and understood that it was an organization that is based on Marxism, was founded by trained Marxists, and implemented Marxist principles. And once again, I encourage you, if you ever get a chance, go back, read the Communist Manifesto, read about who Marx was, and understand that. And then the thing that kind of came after that, which is postmodernism. And I'm telling you right now, you will see direct ties to Marxism. Well, there's an individual who was very active with Black Lives Matter. In fact, he was a founder of the St. Paul chapter of Black Lives Matter. And, he left Black Lives Matter after he discovered what he calls the ugly truth.
Why in 2015, I was a founder of Black Lives Matter in St. Paul. I believe the organization stood for exactly what the name implies. Black lives do matter. However, after a year on the inside, I learned they had little concern for rebuilding black families, and they cared even less about improving the quality of education for students in Minneapolis. That was made clear when they publicly denounced charter schools alongside the teachers union. I was an insider in Black Lives Matter, and I learned the ugly truth.
All right, now, Mike, we've talked about this. Black Lives Matter is not – Black lives don't only matter when it is someone who is shot by a police officer. There are a number of different areas. And first of all, understand, and I think Mike and I once again agree with this, Black lives matter because all lives matter. White lives matter because all lives matter. Gay lives matter because all lives matter.
Right.
So no disagreement with that. But one of the things that I find interesting is that they don't care about the fact that disproportionately, even that 35% of all abortions are black babies, right? That these communities are targeted by the abortion industry. They don't care about that. They don't care about the fact that a lot of these children are stuck and forced to stay in failing public schools just because they live in the wrong zip code. They're not given the opportunity to thrive and go other places. In many areas, once again, there are areas that, fatherlessness. I mean, there's so many different areas that they don't care about. In this case, this father was talking about the schools and education, and he was very big into providing quality education for students. And And Black Lives Matter really didn't care. They didn't care that charter schools tend to provide better opportunities. They didn't care. And so he left there because he realized that, well, Black Lives Matter was a big hoax.
Yeah, listen, this is a man who, listen, his own father was shot and killed when he was 2 years old. His mother couldn't afford to raise him, was raised by his grandparents. He embraced, thankfully, his grandparents embraced education, got him into school, and he's done rather well for himself. He's prospered. Well, he tried to expand that with Black Lives Matter because he saw what was going on within his own family, his own tragedy of his own life story, and realized that Black Lives Matter was not about getting help for Black lives. It was about promoting racism and separation. It really was. And he said, I'm done. I'm out. If we're not going to believe and support and get us all help, get the families help, to make things better for all of us, then I'm not part of your agenda.
Well, and that's the thing is, in going back to some we've talked about this. Black Lives Matter, or the current social justice or critical race theory is all about oppressor versus oppressed. It literally takes the dichotomy of postmodernism and Marxism, and it removes out class and it puts in place race, right? Yep. And that's the function of it, right? That's the primary goal. Except one fundamental difference, this is what's interesting, is in postmodernism and Marxism, their kind of thing is there is no real absolute truth, except in critical race theory, there is an absolute truth that there is racism. America is racist. If you are white, you are racist, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, that's actually right. I'm white, so I must clearly be the racist according to critical race theory.
And I am black, therefore I am oppressed.
Right.
And there's nothing I can do about it unless we tear down the entire system.
And then I'm curious, how would we rebuild it? What would be different?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know. We don't know exactly what the new world order looks like.
Yeah. We know what's wrong, but we have no plan to fix it.
Right. But here's what we do know. We do know that almost every single time we tear down society, what comes from it is almost never better. And the American experience, the American Revolution was an anomaly. It was an anomaly. It just literally, it almost never happens this way, where what comes out of the ashes, the phoenix that rises out of the ashes, is actually better than what was destroyed. And when you try to then say, well, we're gonna try and do that, but we're gonna undo that phoenix that came out. We're gonna strangle that bird, right? And then we're gonna go the exact opposite way with all of our principles and values, and hope something better comes up.
It was an anomaly in time. It was an anomaly in history because it happened. And I'm telling you, my belief is because the only reason it happened before, it didn't happen before and won't happen again after, was because at that time in our technological position, we were 6 months removed via an ocean. You're 3 to 6 months removed via an ocean. So actions took a long time to happen when a government made a decision. It wasn't like, okay, well, we lost that battle, send more troops over there tomorrow. No, it was we had to wait 3 months to get a ruling from the king. And by then it was, I don't care, or it's not worth the effort. And I don't think this kind of thing will ever happen again because we are not, removed from places geographically like that anymore.
No, you're 100% correct, and it's too easy for government to respond.
Yep.
Even though, let's put it this way, we know that when it comes time to respond, we know that they will respond quickly. Sadly, we also know that they will almost always respond incorrectly.
Correct. Right.
That ought just be how it be. All right, Mike. Hey, let's move into today's parting shot, which I think played a big role in a lot of the items that we discussed today. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll just throw it up there. Why don't you go ahead and read it for him, Mike?
All right. It's our new future game show. Sorry, Arthur, your answer was actually correct, but Paul shouted his opinion louder, so he gets the point. And as an extra bonus point, also goes to Sue, as she was offended by your answer.
Now, I think that pretty much covers just about almost every story we've done this week, if not today.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, absolutely. It does. Again, my opinion is the only one that matters. I'm not caring about yours. Your point is moot. I don't have to go there. Not at all.
Well, but it doesn't even matter if you have facts or data to support your opinion, right? It literally is. Just because it's my opinion and I say it louder, and I'm offended, well, it means I'm right and you're wrong.
Absolutely. That's clearly what we see going on in society today. It's absolutely what we've seen. Look at the president from Purdue University there. Look at what Fauci's done. It's absolutely what we've seen going on is I'm going to give you my opinion, and that's all that matters.
Right. So, folks, look, here's the deal, man. Take the time, listen to some folks who are on the other side. I'm not saying you have to give them credibility. What I am saying is this, don't just find out what they believe, find out why they believe what they believe, right? Stop and listen. And then, because here's the thing, one or two things are going to happen. You're either going to learn something new, learn some facts, data, and information that is going to alter your perspective to help make it more correct, or you're going to be able to debunk what it is that they shared with you, and you're going to, number one, you're going to understand their arguments and be able to refute them better, but you're also going to understand why they believe what they believe.
Craig, as a side note, I love the word debunk because that indicates to me that there's bunk out there that needs debunking.
There is, well, we all know, we definitely know, there definitely is bunk out there that needs to be debunked.
Speaking of debunk, let's debunk the theory that we're not giving this away, because we're going to be giving this away. This is bunk right here. We're going to be giving away an upper receiver from Gorilla Machining and an 80% lower piece of aluminum from a Grid Defense. You're going to be getting some lucky winner is going to be winning this tomorrow. We love you tomorrow because we're going to give this away.
Well, exactly. And that was exactly where I was going. Do me a favor, folks. Make sure you guys click on the link in the description of this video. Check out their products, because here's the deal. Even if you win those, you're still going to need some other parts in order to, have something worth having.
There you go.
Right? You're still going to need some other parts in order to have something worth having. And even if you don't win, guess what? Support them, because they support us and they support your fundamental right to keep and bear arms. And, your right to be a conservative in this country. So support them as they support us supporting you. That's my stance.
That's no bunk. That's no bunk.
That is no bunk. All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be it for today. Tomorrow is Freedback Friday. Please make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about the Rundown.
Rundown, like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you on Freedback Friday.
See you on Freedback Friday.